Hi everyone, this is a video response to a question that Alicia asked me. Alicia asked me if she can make her whiteboard a little more impactful. And that got me thinking that maybe I should make a little video for all of you and share some of the basic ways in which we can make the whiteboard useful. I'll try and keep this video short because you're all busy people. I don't know how short it will be eventually, but I'll try and keep it as brief as possible. First of all, we'll need a whiteboard. So, ta-da, we have a whiteboard and we need a marker. So, ta-da, we have a marker. Now, I have some reflection happening on the whiteboard. I'll try and dodge that like that, but I'll do what I can do. Tip number one is that you want to ensure that you're not writing on the whiteboard, you're printing on the whiteboard. Let me give you an example. Who moved my cheese? Okay, who moved my cheese? Now that is an example of printing as opposed to writing. Let me write that and tell you what it would look like. If I write it, it would look like this. Now that is writing. Essentially, I'm using my regular writing hand and I'm trying to make it cursive. I'm connecting some letters. On top, if you look at it, all the letters are separate. They don't necessarily have to be capitals, but they should be separate. That is called printing on the whiteboard. It makes it easier for students to remember and the recall value is greater. This is called writing on the whiteboard. It usually has very little impact as a recall value. So try and print instead of writing. The next thing, which a lot of us struggle with, is try and keep the writing straight. Now if you notice here, I'm kind of going up a little bit. Here as well, I'm going up a little bit. Not very good. You want to try and keep it as straight as you possibly can. That's tip number 2. Tip number 3 is try and use multiple colored markers when you're explaining something. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you're talking about tenses, okay, and we have the same sentence. So let's take the same one. I'm going to remove this writing example, and I'm talking about tenses, let's say, right? So I will take this verb and I'll move this verb out of the board, moved, and perhaps I will write it with a red pen or a green pen or a blue pen, so that I can draw attention towards what I'm talking about. So if I'm talking about tenses and I want people to look at the verb, I will use a different colored marker. Now let's say you don't have a different colored marker for some reason, in which case, so this is tip number 3. Tip number 4 is in case you don't have a different colored marker and you have only been provided with a black. So what you do is, you have your marker, try and use patterns. So I could circle it, I could underline it, I could make a star, whatever it is, and I could say, oh, all right, see, this is the one that is the tense, and that is how it has to be done. So that's another thing that you can possibly do. You can use I'll fix this. You can actually use those patterns. Something else that can happen here is whiteboards are not just meant for visual learners. They're also meant for kinesthetic learners, which means people who like to do things and learn things. Now what you can do when you, let's take the same example and you try and teach tenses. Instead of you changing the word, you can ask somebody else to do it. So how you do that is you first write the sentence and you tell them, all right, I want to be able to make this into the continuous tense, something that is happening right now. And then you remove this and then you ask somebody else in the classroom to come and say, all right, what should be the word that comes here? And then you offer them a different colored marker. And you say, all right, who's going to write this? Someone says, ma'am, sir, whatever. Shubham, why don't you come up? And Shubham comes up, give him a different colored marker, and then Shubham writes, who is moving, right? So then that's how different colored markers can be used. Another way to use different colored markers is when you write on your whiteboard with errors. So I see that on your whiteboards and corners you have some errors, grammatical errors, and things like that. Let's take a common error. It's happened, right? Now what you want them to say is it happens. So instead of writing it's happened on the board here, let's see how you guys write it. You usually say it's happened, and you write it like that at the corner, right? What you can do is wherever the error is, you highlight that error with a different color. So the it becomes it. It happens. That way you are kind of drawing the attention towards the error that you want people to identify. This can be done with pronunciation and everything else. My God, look at this. I should have got a different cluster. Anyway. Last but not the least, let's first take this off the board. Always, when you've explained something, clear your board and hopefully get a duster that sticks and a board that does not move so much. Alright, last but not the least is that you want to ensure, if you're right-handed, you stay to this side of the board. The board's left, your right, so that you write like this. Now here, even if I'm facing the board and writing, my body is still towards the audience. Always. If I do it the other way around, now what happens is that I'll have to keep looking back. I'll have to keep looking back and doing this. The same applies to left-handed people. Some of you are left-handed. In that case, you want to write like this. Now, my left hand is practically useless, but this is how you want to write for left-handed. If you're going to go here, then it'll be tricky. You'll be facing the board throughout, right? So based on if you're left-handed or right-handed, stand on the appropriate side of the board. I'm sorry this video has taken longer than I thought, but I hope it'll be helpful. Take care. Bye-bye.